Good morning, Abuja. You are still locked into Ray Power 100.5 FM, the ultimate morning show, 36 minutes past 7. Thank you so much for starting your Wednesday morning with us. My name is Chooks, and it's time for us to take a look at what the dailies are saying right about now. We're starting off with the front page of the Daily Sun. Well, before we get into that, we're currently streaming live on YouTube. All you need to do is search for Ray Power Abuja, and you get to lock in with us as well via YouTube. All right, so the Daily Sun. IGP deploys DIGs, others to rescue Oyo pupils, teachers unhurt. Others clamp down of unregistered concealed vehicle number plates. That is on page 4. FG admits challenges but insists Tinubu's reforms working. Lists achievements, page 6. Reps. Kwankwaso expressed concern over kidnapping, banditry, page 4 and 26. Labour demands immediate renegotiation of minimum wage, page 6. Now to the Nigerian News Direct, we have Democracy Day. Nigeria moving in right direction despite pain of reforms. That's coming from the SGF on page 18. Ebola. President Tinubu approves 10 billion naira for emergency preparedness. That is on page 3. EXU register aspirant slumps during aptitude tests, page 15. 700 billion naira payments, only 40 billion naira has been dispersed, local contractors allege. That is a story above the nameplate of the Nigerian News Direct on page 3. Oshuguba poll, Ife, APC confident of victory remains united. Aderity on page 4. Reps summon security chiefs, ministers over abductions, page 19. To the Whistler. Amid rising national insecurity, Niger Delta finds stability through Tantita. That's an investigation on page 7. Survey links pipeline surveillance to improved regional security. South insecurity incidents dropped by 20.9% in 3 years. Northwest emerges hotspot of hostilities. Northeast Valley of death, and the 3-year trend analysis from 2023 to 2025 is on the front page of the Whistler with figures to go as well. Audit showed set issues 1 week ultimatum to BOA, Minton Firm, RIA, page 20. Abia restores 24 hours electricity in Aba to exit national grid, page 8. Obi faults Tinubu over rising debt, missing borrowed funds, page 22. Nigeria's economic gains at risk from poverty, capital volatility. That's coming from the IMF on page 15 of the Whistler. Resume work in 72 hours or face EFCC. Umahi threatens contractors, page 13. INEC appeals conflicting court orders on 2027 election timetable, page 22. Above the Whistler, insecurity reps summon Ribadu, service chiefs as IGP redeploys DIGs. That's on pages 15 and 21. Now to the GWG.ng, we have Tinubu commissions Abuja's OSEX main carriageway, says era of abandoned projects over, page 2. We also have in his final word, article says BD Lawal talking Balderdash, page 2. And that's it for GWG.ng. To the Authority newspaper, we have Tinubu approves 10 billion naira to stop Ebola, appoints Gbajabiamila Mela to head preparedness task force. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. Democracy Day, FG defends reforms, highlights gains of Tinubu's administration, page 5. Military warns against AI-generated video targeting defense leadership, page 8. June 12, Atiku was part of the decision for rotational presidency. George Akumede on page 8. SEDC boss Okoye under probe over alleged mismanagement of 16.69 billion naira 2025 budgets. That's on page 7. Above the nameplate of the Authority, Senate to fast-track state police bill sends amendments to states this week, page 4. 2027, political parties to upload candidates' details from June 26. That's coming from INEC on page 9. NDC yet to release primary results as Kwankwasiya leaders meet party leadership, page 9. Rep summon service chiefs, finance minister over security spending, page 9. To the Daily Monitor, Democracy Day, FG working to solve Nigeria's challenges. That's coming from the President Tinubu. List achievements recorded by his administration in 3 years. Urges Nigerians to make security their personal and collective national project. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. IMF hails Nigeria's strong economic reforms, resilience, warns that economic conditions remain difficult for many Nigerians, particularly low-income households, says poverty, food insecurity could worsen if external economic pressures persist. We have Tinubu establishes Ebola task force, approves 10 billion naira for preparedness. That's on page 4. Insecurity, IGP orders redeployment of DIGs to respective zones, page 2. NLC rejects tax on minimum wage, demands living wage, page 5. INEC appeals conflicting court judgments over 2027 elections, timetable, page 5. Above the nameplate of the Daily Monitor is Reps to Tinubu, flush out bandit kidnappers from Nigeria, condemns continued banditry, mass abductions, attacks on schools, churches across Nigeria. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. Now to the Daily Global. We have North tired of Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, ACF there. That's the major story from the Daily Global. Chief of Army Staff tasks media to dominate information space, counter fake news. IGP Disu charges senior officers on proactive policing, strengthens operational strategies nationwide. Insurance reforms set stage for industry transformation as Heirs Insurance marks 5 years of growth. We also have Oyo abduction. Nigerians should not relent in prayers. Husband of kidnapped principal appeals for safe return. America borrows power. Nigeria borrows survival. That's an interesting headline there. The Daily Global has that story for you. And also, first batch of Nigerians repatriated from South Africa arrives Thursday. That starts on the front page of the Daily Global. So the Standard Times. Tinubu at 3. We are succeeding, SGF declares as ministers reel out achievements. FG lists gains in economy, security, healthcare, water supply, and democratic governance. Page 2 of the Standard Times. Woman detained for throwing disabled 5-year-old child into a Edo River. Page 4. LPG scarcity worsens as cooking gas hits 2,400 naira per kg despite fresh imports. That's on page 3 of the Standard Times. Nigeria spend 50 billion naira on US visa applications despite decline in approvals. Page 3. Peter Obi sues kinsman Kenneth Okonkwo. Page 2. Lawma condemns attack on enforcement officers, vows to sustain crackdown on illegal dumping. Page 2. President Tinubu establishes task force on Ebola, approves 10 billion naira for emergency preparedness. Page 3. Above the nameplate of the Standard Times, Nigeria's trade surplus hit 7.55 trillion naira as exports rise to 21.17 trillion naira in quarter 1 2026. That's from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. That's on the front page and continues on page 3. Gunmen ambush, kill 2 soldiers in Ogun Highway attack. Sad one there on page 4. Lagos nabs 15 for reselling used disposables, plastics, plates to food vendors. Page 4. To the Daily Independent, despite inflation, security woes, Nigeria is progressing. From the federal government to unveil national ranching policy next week. Starts on the front page, and that continues on page 29. Reps asked Tinubu to crush bandits and school abductions. Page 29. TCN shifts power sector blame away from transmission network. Page 7. Tinubu vows no safe haven for corruption under his administration. Inaugurates key economic infra projects in Ado-Ekiti, page 6. Nigeria's reforms growing economy, but poverty still pervades. That's coming from the IMF. Starts on the front page, continues on page 29. Senate calls for ban on imported fabric. Starts on the front page, continues on page 7. Now to Al Jazeera Nigeria, we have Democracy Day. The lesson is clear from George Akume. Says no substitute to democracy, page 9. 2027 elections timetable. INEC appeals conflicting court judgments, page 21. Textile sector. Senate seeks urgent revival to create jobs, tackle insecurity, page 2. Transmission no longer Nigeria's power problem, TCN MD on page 14. Security spending. Rep summon service chiefs, heads of security agencies, finance minister, others. Starts on the front page, continues on page 4. And our final paper is the Nigerian pilot that reads Ebola scare. FG approves 10 billion naira emergency funding to prepare against possible outbreak. Sets up high-powered preparedness task force to monitor the situation nationwide. Orders intensified screening at airports. Others. That's page 8 of the Nigerian pilot. FG begins evacuation of Nigerians from South Africa today on page 5. 115 stranded Nigerians return home from Niger arrive in Kano, page 7. Kebbi government extends retirement age for doctors to 65, page 7. Bandits kill NSCDC officer, abduct daughter in Kogi, page 8. FG unveils $1 billion AFCFTA credit facility to boost Nigerian exports on page 8. FCT police train personnel on forensics fraud investigation, page 9. And NLC rejects tax on minimum wage, demands living wage, page 6. That's it for the Nigerian pilot. And that's it for the front pages. We're going to a very short break and return with business stories. Stay with us.
This is the newspaper review.
Welcome back. We're still taking a look at the dailies this morning. Now to the business side of things. Starting off with the business NG. We have Nigerians spend over 50 billion naira on US visa applications amid Japa surge. So Nigerians reportedly spent more than 50 billion naira on United States visa applications between 2023 and 2024, underscoring the scale of migration demand and the rising financial costs of the popular Japa trend over the 2-year period. The figure reflects cumulative spending on non-immigrant US visa applications, which are generally non-refundable regardless of whether applicants are approved or rejected. This means that a significant portion of the money spent is lost, even in cases where visa applications are unsuccessful, adding a financial burden to the already competitive application process. The development highlights the strong and sustained appetite for migration among Nigerians, particularly within the middle class segment and skilled professionals seeking better opportunities in education, employment, and living standards abroad. All right, so moving on, we have markets extend rally as trade surplus surges, FX softens, and fiscal cleanup deepens. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. Nigeria's FX reserves hits $50.11 billion, highest in 17 years. And Nigeria becomes Africa's second largest stock market as capital market deepens on that Tinubu, page 2. All right, so that's it for the business NG. Okay, there's one about Tony Elumelu to chair Seplat as Okon becomes CEO in major leadership shakeup. Page 2 as well. So those are the dailies this morning. The Daily Sun, Nigeria News Direct, the Whistler, GWG.NG, the Authority newspaper, the Daily Monitor, This Nigeria. We also looked at the Daily Global, the Standard Times, Daily Independent, Al Jazeera, Nigeria, Midweek, Nigerian Pilot as well. And on the papers, from all the front pages this morning, talking about June 12, the 3-year anniversary of President Bola Tinubu's administration. Yesterday here in the FCT, flag off or commissioning of projects started off, in preparations or in celebration of the 3-year administration of the president. Also, in Ekiti as well, there were projects commissioned as well in the name of the president. Well, yes, very good. There are promises that have been made to residents of the FCT and Nigerians as well that projects that were started in other past administrations that were not completed will be completed under this administration, and they'll start new ones and they will start and finish them. Yes, fine, very, very commendable for this administration. But then again, we still have issues we are facing as a nation, and it's growing as well in the FCT, security-wise, economic-wise as well. A lot of people cannot afford cooking gas going for 2,400 naira per kg, kerosene 4,000 naira per liter. Somebody even this morning mentioned how firewood, I didn't even know, the cost of firewood, but that how do I call it now? Two sticks of firewood goes for 500 naira as well. So everything is on the high side. Charcoal, those who would probably like to use charcoal, who have bought charcoal stove, to maneuver all of these issues, are buying a bag for 6,000 naira as well. So there's still issues that we are being faced with. Yes, we love all the roads, the water projects and all of that, but also we still need work when it comes to the economy and security, and we're still imploring the government to put in, their very best. And as we started going into all these June 12 celebrations and 3-year anniversary, celebration of the president, we still have to remember that people are still need our saving in the likes of Oyo State and in different parts of the nation. All right, so people still need us to intervene and get them home safely to their families. One of the papers talking about how the principal's husband is talking about how we should keep praying. Yes, most definitely, but also we still need the work. We need the actual work. We need security operatives on ground to get them home safe and sound. Only prayers will not do that. Prayers help, but hey, physical, interaction with this situation is very, very important, and it needs to be swift as well and timely. Again, we've had them more than 2 weeks in the hands of these kidnappers, so it's been a very, very long time and traumatic experience for them. Also this morning, IGP deploys DIGs, others to rescue your people's teachers on hunt. Also, others clamp down off unregistered concealed vehicle number plates. All right, so for those of you who drive vehicles like that, desist from doing so as well. I don't know, number plates, the average people, cover their plates. I think those who cover their plates are usually on the, top 1% and all of that. So a bit of, clarity on that one though. But hey, do your due diligence when it comes to your car registrations, your papers and all of that, to avoid any of these issues, to avoid you being investigated, especially when your hands are clean. You're not involved in any of these issues we're facing as a nation. So the IG there, going full hard on individuals as such. All right, so the reps as well this morning summoning the service chief, Minister of Finance as well, over spendings, what's being done. I'm also saying that I think one of the papers said if they cannot tackle insecurity, the service chief should resign. And well, finally we have our House of Reps, everybody taking the hard stand and putting their foot down and saying, yes, people should pay for not being able to do their jobs properly. If we're still in this kind of situation, it's escalating day in, day out, then why should you be in office? Why should you be, leading our troops and whatnot? So yes, very important that, some pressure be put on them for them to sit up if they're a little bit relaxed. Yeah, so we will see what this summon will bring up. Also, the summoned Nuhu Ribadu as well. That's the NSA. So maybe a little bit of fire to their seats will push them and egg them on to be more active when it comes to this insecurity issues, because a lot of Nigerians have been talking about how they do not feel, we're doing enough as a nation in battling insecurity. Even if we have wins, we still have some wins against these terrorists in some parts when they try to ambush, bases, try to ambush communities. We still have some, push back on them, but we need a complete end to insecurity. All right, moving to a little bit of politics. Or before we even get to politics, let's look at the NLC right now, rejecting the tax on minimum wage, firstly, and also demanding a living wage. And a living wage, 100,000 naira, is that a living wage, considering what things look like in the country if you were going to put that as a minimum wage? As we've been hearing, so far so good. And even the NLC, president did throw some shade, to governors who are still not even paying the 70,000 naira minimum wage. There's some still not paying. There are states not paying. There are private institutions still not paying the minimum wage, which is a very sad one indeed. How do you expect your workers to survive? How do you expect your workers to feel good coming to work? How do you expect your workers to feel the need to put in their very best in the work that they do? And you, as an employer of labor, you definitely are going to be demanding the best from them. But if somebody has to spend over 3,000, 4,000 naira a day on transportation, and you're not even paying up to 70,000 naira, which is the minimum wage, I mean, come on, are we playing here as it is? So a living wage, I don't know the figures, and also will be standing on, but initially they were talking about 1 million naira, which I might say is very, very high. How many, companies, how many government institutions can, sustain that one? But a living wage, yes. I understand the angle the NLC is coming from, especially with what's happening in the country. Inflation, cost of goods, services around, very, very high. They're still at the ILO's event in Geneva, all labor, unions across the world, meeting to discuss. And yes, I told you that they did report the Nigerian government to the ILO on the issues we are facing here in the nation, and how, some government officials are interfering with states' labor organizations as well, trying to, get the leadership and all of that put in place by themselves. So all of that issue being discussed right there in Geneva. Well, the NDC this morning, the paper still showing that there's some internal issues with the NDC, key figures, missing during some meetings, but we're still getting set for the 2027 elections. INEC is going to be doing, mock preparations towards the elections as well, and mock accreditations as well. So we'll see what the picture will look like as we get closer to the 2027 elections. And a very interesting one with Peter Obi, suing Kenneth Okonkwo for billions of naira in a suit. So, he comes down hard on Mr. Peter Obi. So maybe Mr. Peter Obi has had enough of it. Well, we'll see what will also come out from that suit as well. So that's it for the papers this morning. You can pick up a copy of any of the dailies. You have an insight into all of the trending story. And just to let you know that Jose Mourinho is joining Real Madrid. Yes, Real Madrid have paid 15 million euros to get him free from Benfica. Super excited to see Jose in a big club, once again, leading the best in Europe. Well, that's it for me for now. Yeah, coming through in a bit is the news on the hour. 8:30 FACFA, 9 o'clock political platform, and that will be streaming live on YouTube, Raypa Abuja. My name is Chooks. Good morning.